quorum bell.
Just at the time the House was just about to commence business, there has been notified that the House doesn't have the requisite quorum, and so the Speaker has directed that the sergeants keep ringing the quorum bell to allow for more members of the National Assembly to access the chambers this afternoon to ensure that the House has the requisite number to commence business. And that particular directive is guided by the House Standing Orders number 34, subsection 1, that allows the Speaker to direct for the quorum bell to be rung for 10 minutes and a further 5 minutes until such a time when the House raises the numbers to commence business. A further look at the order paper this afternoon is that Honourable Member there will be a petition to the National Assembly, and this particular petition will be communicated by the Speaker, and this is pursuant to Standing Orders number 225. And this particular petition is on the poor implementation of the Edu Afya medical scheme in public secondary schools. And this particular petition is by petitioners that was reported by the Speaker on behalf of Ms. Joyce Cherono. And this particular petition will be dealt with by the relevant Committee on Public Petitions. The general debate on the proposal of Parliament to consider amending the Constitution is a motion featuring heavily in the order paper this afternoon. This particular motion is by the Leader of Majority, Honourable Kimani Ichung'wah, that noting that the contents of the memoranda submitted to Parliament by His Excellency, the President asking Parliament to consider initiating amendments to the Constitution and acknowledging that actualization of the proposals which relates to the composition of Parliament as provided for in Article 97 and Articles 98 of the Constitution. This is in order to attain the two-thirds gender principle, the creation of the office of the Leader of the Opposition, official opposition in Parliament, and the inclusion of various funds in the Constitution would necessitate amendments to the Constitution, while restructuring of the parliamentary oversight to allow for cabinet secretaries to appear before the Houses of Parliament, and this is to respond to questions by members, would require another amendment to the standing orders, and further acknowledging that the Speaker via a notification issued on the 9th of December 2022 referred to these matters raised in the memorandum to the Departmental Committee on Matters Justice and Legal Affairs, and this is with regards to the proposals relating to the implementation of the two-thirds gender principle, the establishment of the office of the Leader of Official Opposition, the Joint Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee, with regard to the proposals to amend the Constitution, and this is to entrench the constituency development, the Senate oversight, and the national government affirmative action funds, as well as the procedure in House Rules Committee with regards to the proposals to amend the standing orders, and this is also to strengthen the legislative arm of government, the parliamentary oversight of the executive, and this is to facilitate public participation pursuant to Articles 118 of the Constitution. And now, therefore, pursuant to the provisions of Articles 1, subsection 2, as well as 95, subsection 2 of the Constitution, the House notes and considers, as well as makes general comments on the proposals contained in the memoranda by His Excellency the President. The House will this afternoon be resuming debate on this particular general motion to amend the Constitution after having debated on it on Wednesday afternoon sitting. And this particular motion is allocated about 3 hours for debate according to the rules of the House. The report of the 42nd sessional of the Organization of Africa, Caribbean and Pacific States, as well as the European Union Joint Parliamentary Assembly, and this is a motion by the Kenya delegation of the OACPS, JPA, is also another motion.
Order. We have quorum to transact business.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Order. Honorable Member for Sirisia, take your seat, please. Honorable members, we have a petition. Honorable members, we have a petition regarding poor implementation of EDU Afya Medical Scheme in public secondary schools. Honorable members, Article 119 of the Constitution accords any person the right to petition Parliament to consider any matter within its authority. Further, Standing Order 2252B requires the Speaker to report to the House any petition other than that presented by a member. In this regard, honorable members, I wish to report to the House that my office is in receipt of a petition from one Ms. Joyce Cherono of National Identification Card number 2170217, calling on this House to intervene on the matter of implementation of the EDU Afya Medical Scheme for students in public secondary schools by the Minister of Education. The petitioner, practicing nurse who claims to be the brainchild behind this idea, claims that since the scheme was rolled out in 2018 to enable students in public schools to access affordable and quality health care under the National Hospital Insurance Fund NHIF cover, utility of the scheme is yet to be optimized. She associates poor implementation of the EDU Afya scheme to various challenges. First, the petitioner claims that the technicalities within enrollment by the Minister of Education of all students in the National Education Management Information System, NEMIS, database from which the EDU Afya scheme obtains students' data has resulted in low uptake of the fund. The petitioner adds that the system which runs EDU Afya patient identification and billing are often slow or non-responsive, thereby compelling parents or guardians of students under scheme to meet the cost of treatment due to system failures. The petitioner is concerned that the Minister of Education and other relevant stakeholders have not undertaken public awareness of the program in order to encourage enrollment. The petitioner further alludes that the government rolled out the scheme without putting in place adequate infrastructure and medical personnel in public schools to offer consultation and referral services. She also claims that there were no monitoring and evaluation framework in place to assess effectiveness of the program. The petitioner is afraid that if intervention is not made towards ensuring that the program is optimally implemented, the gains envisaged from the scheme will be lost. The petitioner therefore prays that the National Assembly, through its Public Petitions Committee, 1, causes the relevant ministries to urgently review the framework for implementation of the EDU AFIA medical scheme to provide regular monitoring and evaluation that addresses challenges facing the program and ensure that students in all public secondary schools equally benefit from the EDU AFIA scheme. 2, causes the government to support the establishment of clinics within public secondary schools and to initiate employment and deployment of qualified, registered, and licensed medical personnel in schools under the fund to ensure that students optimally benefit from the scheme. And 3, makes any other order that it deems fit in the circumstances of this petition. Honorable members, having determined that the matters raised by the petitioner are well within the authority of this House, I order that pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 2271, this petition be committed to the Public Petitions Committee. The committee is required to consider the petition and report its findings to the House and the petition in accordance with the Standing Order 2272. Thank you. Yes, the Honorable Makali Mulu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank the petitioner for raising up this petition in the House. Honorable Speaker, the petitioner raises very fundamental issues relating to that scheme, Honorable Speaker. And I think, Honorable Speaker, even as
Sorry, Honorable Makalimu. Honorable members, in case you have forgotten your standing orders out of recess, you have 30 minutes within which you can make comments to this petition if you wish to. The screen is full as usual. I'm sure it was not because of this petition. And those who will want to make comments probably go to interventions. And if there is overwhelming interest, I'll give 3 minutes to each intervener.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, I was just saying that even as our committee looks at this petition, there are 2 fundamental issues they need to look at. One of them, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of a monitoring and evaluation framework. The reason why the petition is claiming that there is an underutilization of the scheme, obvious, is because nobody has been following up to find out what is happening. So that proposal of a monitoring and evaluation framework, Honorable Speaker, must be given a bit of attention as the committee looks at that. The other issue, Honorable Speaker, is the issue of public participation. Honorable Speaker, in a situation where we expect our students and parents to participate in this scheme, and then the whole issue of public participation not properly conducted, Honorable Speaker, then these gaps will always exist. So our Constitution has given us that provision that it is important there is public participation where involve our people. So I still want to insist, Honorable Speaker, it is important that as we undertake many of these activities, and more so, activities which are going to benefit the public, the issue of public participation must be taken very seriously, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. I submit.
The Honorable, is it Jared, is it Okello? You are not used to sitting where you're sitting.
I hear this is government side. I only hear. Well, I thank you. Yes, I'm feeling the warmth. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. And I also acknowledge that from where you sit, Honorable Speaker, you are expected to be blind. But let me bring it to your attention that the target group of the EDA AFIA health scheme, that target group has occupied the speaker's chambers, or the speaker's gallery, and they are here to listen very pensively to our contributions to this that goes directly to their welfare, Honorable Speaker.
They are also in the public gallery. Look back.
Yes, both the speaker's gallery and the public gallery. Honorable Speaker, Article 43 of our Constitution pays great credence to access to health care. And the EDA health scheme EDU was meant to address issues of health to the students who are in high schools or our secondary schools, Honorable Speaker. At this point, when digital platforms have percolated our systems and through globalization, digital is the direction that the world is going to, that the EDU still has inordinate delays and failures when it comes to addressing issues of health in our health facilities by students is something that needs to be properly looked into. The parents that take their children to school are already overstretched when it comes to family budgetary constraints. And if this scheme was meant to address issues of illnesses by students, and it goes, and the students use this privilege to go into health facilities and cannot get the intended help, then there is basically a problem that needs to be properly addressed, Honorable Speaker. And I thank you for the opportunity.
Didymus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to support this petition. This petition speaks to very weighty issues, Honorable Speaker, that any government program must be re-evaluated to be able to identify areas of improvement, because some of these policies are implemented, Honorable Speaker, without necessarily having the input of each and every person that will want to improve them. And developing a monitoring and evaluation tool, it's not only important, but very necessary, Honorable Speaker. The government can only improve, and we can only begin to change from situations where we just wake up in the morning and we want to scrap a program, or we want to suggest other issues to improve it without first necessarily scanning through the operationalization of the said policies, Honorable Speaker, so that we are in future, if we want to suggest further amendments, those amendments must be informed by the challenges, by the bottlenecks, by the need to improve efficiency, by the need to ensure that the target group is expanded, and those who are targeted are the ones who are benefiting, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, without much ado, this is a good petition, and I ask the committee to expedite the findings so that they can be implemented for the benefit of the country. I thank you.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I also rise to support this petition by Ms. Cherono. Honorable Speaker, I think the scheme as envisaged was to benefit our students, some of who are seated in the Speaker's gallery and the public gallery. And it's sad, Honorable Speaker, that if this scheme is not even, the system is not even able to identify kids or the students when they visit public hospitals. And Honorable Speaker, you know, we passed laws in this House with the amendment of the NHIF Act to even allow NHIF to have systems where they can use biometrics to identify patients when they attend hospitals. And the same, maybe the Committee on Health or whichever other committee will handle this matter, should ensure that students can be identified biometrically. We also made it compulsory for every Kenyan who attains the age of 18 to be registered under NHIF. And the opportunity to be able to register students while they are still in school is the best opportunity to take their biometrics when they are still in school, so that even after school, they already enjoy and know the benefits of having a medical cover. And therefore, even after high school, on to university and even in their working careers, they will have been socialized to the idea of medical insurance. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I want to really beg the Committee on Health and Dr. Pukose to look at how they can deal with the technicalities, especially of biometric identification of students, ensuring also through the Ministry of Education, if the system of NEMIS captures students at the time they are sitting their KCPE, and even now with the CBC at grade 6, there is no reason why that same NEMIS cannot be integrated with the NHIF system, and they also take biometrics at NHIF, and use the two systems in an integrated manner so that every student who is in a classroom, at least every school, Honorable Speaker, every other school, a teacher knows the number of students in the classroom. And they have a register that they call out every other morning. If they still do what we used to do when we were in school, we are being called out every morning. If that is happening, what is so difficult with the Ministry of Education getting the same data and ensuring every student who is in a school is also registered in EMIS and the biometrics also registered with NHIF? Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I beg to support.
Dr. Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important scheme. And any scheme that is actually touching health, once established, should actually have a system of ensuring that every person who should get it gets it and that it is monitored. But being in the health committee, we are going to look at it in a much broader way because it's the issue of scattering of all these schemes. You have this for the students, you have one for pregnant mothers, you have one for old people, you have one for people with disability. So I think we are going to look at it much more broadly and brought all these social protection activities and broader. Even if you look at school feeding programs, all these, they are all social protection. So we have to look at it, we support this, but we look at it in a much broader way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Robert Bukose, and as Chair of Health, this is a matter which you need no prompting to follow up.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for both your guidance and allowing me to make my contribution. Honorable Speaker, I want to urge the Committee on Petitions that when they'll be looking into this matter, it will be important that they are able to invite the Minister of Health and the Minister of Health and also the NHIF to be, because right now NHIF and the Minister of Health, they are working on a product to consolidate all these schemes, the schemes on elderly, school children, the indigents, and everybody. You know, those school children, they belong to a family. And when they belong to a family, it will be good that some of those families could be indigents. So under that program, it is possible for them to be catered for. They should also be able to invite Dr. Ndi and his team so that they can shed some more light to them, so that whatever recommendations they bring to this house are recommendations that are well thought of, and if need be, if they require some bit of amendment to the law, then we will be up to the task. My committee and my team will be up to the task to make sure that we provide the legal framework to which we can be able to operationalize these issues of provision of health care. Because when you look at our law, the provision of health care is a constitutional mandate, and it's not just health care, it's the best quality health care that the country can provide. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Chairman. The Honorable Ferdinand Wanyonyi. Those who want to contribute go to interventions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to, on the very onset, to thank the petition. And she, I think, came up with a very good idea. But the problem is, apart from having the Ministry, the Committee of Health, we should also involve the Committee of Education, because I've had cases, Mr. Speaker, where even the teachers themselves don't know about this particular program. I've had cases where a student is sick and they rush to the Member of Parliament for assistance when this project is there. And at the same time, Mr. Speaker, out there, teachers are now saying whoever, if a student is sick in secondary school, he goes to the nearest hospital where this program is actually operationalized. So I think apart from having the ministry, the commissioner dealing with this, we also have this committee of education, so that the teachers also are aware about this particular program, so that can be able to implement it. It's a very good program, given the hard times this country is facing. And I think I want to thank this lady for having come up with this petition. Thank you so much. I support.
David Gikaria.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Mwanzo najua umesoma hoja petition. Sijajua utaielekezea wapi. Nimesikia chairman wa kamati ya afya akisema kwa vile najua hii inatakana kwenda kwa ile kamati ya public petitions. Na ninasikia na hapo pengine sisi kama wajumbe tuangalie kwa sababu na nimesikia chairman wa hiyo kamati akisema wale waalike wale ambao wanahusika. So ni muhimu kwanza. Ya pili ni kubaliane na majority leader vile amesema ya kwamba ni muhimu tunaweza identify hawa watoto mapema kupitia ile mtandao ya kisasa ya biometric. Na nafikiria ni muhimu sana kama vile mheshimiwa amesema ya kwamba inahitaji wawe identified mapema wakiwa shuleni na hata baada ya kutimiza miaka 18 wataendelea na ule kama vile tulivyosema tulipitisha mjadala ama sheria mwaka ile katika bunge ya 12 na tukasema mtoto yote ambaye anatimia miaka 18 ni lazima asajiliwe na ile fund ya National Hospital Insurance Fund. Pia nikubaliane na Bwana Didmas Barasa. Ni kweli Bwana Spika, ni muhimu mambo ya serikali ambayo tunaiweka kwa serikali inaweza kufanyiwa uchunguzi. Baada tukisha pengine tumefumbua kitu fulani inafanyiwa uchunguzi. Ndio tunaweza kujua uzuri wake, ubaya wake kabla hatujaenda, lakini nina support petition hiyo. Asante sana Bwana Spika.
Emmanuel Wangwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me also to add my voice on this petition and just want maybe, Honorable Speaker, to call on my colleagues whom we were together in last Parliament. There was a bill on the issue to do with the public participation, and this bill, this petition, Honorable Speaker, seems to question, seems to give us leads of question to how maybe the IDU came into existence in terms of the medical facility to our children in schools. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, my colleagues, it's our time. It's a wake-up call. The Honorable Speaker, we'll look at the qualification of the word public participation. If you may go to that bill by the Honorable Chris Wamalwa, we could be able, Honorable Speaker, to ascertain was there quality public participation, and it can only be done so, Honorable Speaker, if at all we are going to go back to that time when we can now validate which some regulations, some rules, and kind of performance of various ministries and state departments can exist, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's also very true that our children, whenever they go to hospitals, I've had several cases in my constituency, Honorable Speaker, that some children can go to our local level 4 hospital and are not attended to just because the nature of the medical the identification, Honorable Speaker, is a challenge. Therefore, I support the bill, the petition, and wish, Honorable Speaker, to put it that is a good petition which is going to help our children get a permanent solution on how they are attended to once they are unwell. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Oku Kaunya.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I support that petition, which is a very important petition, on two major points. One, Mr. Speaker, sir, the question of public participation is key. On the second aspect, Mr. Speaker, the committee that will look at this, I would urge they should look at the overall NHIF performance. Mr. Speaker, this is the major body that does insurance undertaking as a public entity, and this should really be run efficiently. So therefore, some of these, Mr. Speaker, improvements that NHIF should bring on board should ensure not only this AFIA scheme, the EDU, for our students, but other schemes that are in operation are mutually with application of technology. Mr. Speaker, I support the petition.
The Honorable John Kitonga of Manyatta.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to support this petition. The issue of NHIF and our kids, Honorable Speaker, we need to improve and ensure that it serves our people better. Honorable Speaker, NHIF is something that can help this country to really do a lot on our health care. I would like to say that we have had students who don't even know that if they're in high school, they're supposed to be treated for free in our public schools. And I think if there is a good database and they're given good data so that they go to those institutions, they can be able to be served right. I would also like to improve on it and say that NHIF should be able to serve us and ensure it serves even pharmacies that are in the dispensary levels. And Honorable Speaker, while we are looking at that, I would like to say that if we improve on the fact that these kids require health care every now and then, I think, Honorable Speaker, it can be a good thing. Honorable Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Lastly, Murumba John Chikati.
Mr. Speaker, let me contribute to this petition by Ms. Cherono. Healthcare is extremely important to access to education. It is very critical because when you look at the number of students in hospitals, it is at any time, it is almost equal to the number of adult patients. And we are undergoing a time when parents are in very difficult position and burdened with other needs. And they cannot be able to meet the medical needs of their students or their children. And therefore, it is extremely important that this petition goes through, that the committee charged with this responsibility facilitates and tracks this so that we can be able to have access of our children in schools to medical services without strain. Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. I see one last member, Bisau Kakai. That will be the last one on this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. First, to thank also Cherono for bringing in this petition. What is important, Mr. Speaker, these children are actually the owners of this country. In terms of numbers, they are the majority. And what is important is for us, especially as legislators, to ensure that they are well represented here. So to me, Mr. Speaker, apart from the issue of public participation, we've seen a trend where issues are implemented very fast, but in the process of implementing them very fast without doing proper research or public participation, we've ended up trying to redo them again or fixing them. So to me, Mr. Speaker, I stand up here to support this petition, and I think it needs to be expedited so that our children can have proper medical coverage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. I see Edith Nyenze also has. That will be the very last. Edith, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Let me also say that I support this noble idea of giving health care to our students by first congratulating Cherono. And then Mr. Speaker, I also note that the numbers involved in such a medical scheme are very huge numbers. And they call for proper research. I even remember in last term, in our account, we also had a medical scheme which flopped because of the huge numbers involved. Money is put into the scheme and no services were realized. So it's very important to have the proper systems in place, proper research done before actually such a scheme is put into place. Otherwise, it's a very noble idea. I support that it should be looked into so that it can help our students. Because if their parents are only left to pay school fees, then this will give them peace, because paying school fees and also looking for money for to take their students, their pupils to hospital is not easy, especially during this time of famine where parents have no resources. So I support, and I hope that the committee will do a good job. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable members. Before I commit to the petition, I want to acknowledge the presence of the following schools in the public gallery: Chebareria Mixed Secondary School, Pokot South, West Pokot; St. Bridget's Girls, Litain, Konoin, Bomet; Njiri School, Kigumo, Muranga; Topline Secondary School, Embakasi South, Nairobi; Kanjalu Girls High School, Tigania West, Meru. In the Speaker's Gallery, we have Tenwek High School, Bomet, from Bomet, and Kapletundo School, Bomet, Sotik, in Bomet. On my behalf and on behalf of the whole House, I welcome the schools to the Houses of Parliament and wish them well. Honorable members will now commit this petition to the relevant committee, the Committee on Public Petitions. And Majority Leader, this lady who has brought this great petition also claims to be the brainchild of this scheme. And for her to invent such a thing and then follow up on you to implement is an indictment of several players in our public affairs. So you need to probably follow up that as well. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, 16 February 2023. 1. Information on programs, outputs, performance indicators, and targets for the financial year 2023/24, and the medium-term strategy from the National Treasury and Economic Planning. 2. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 30th June 2021 and the certificates therein: Kenya National Shipping Line Limited, Orange Democratic Movement, ODM; Kenya Copyright Board; Kenya Maritime Authority Staff Mortgage and Car Loan Scheme; Kenya Maritime Authority; Kenya Medical Training College; Turkana University College; National Communications Secretariat; Northern Waterworks Development Agency; Kwanza Technopolis Development Authority; President's Awards Kenya; Kenya Institute of Mass Communication; Kenya Film Classification Board; Communication Authority of Kenya; Kenya Sesefly and Trypanosomiasis Eradication Council; National Youth Council; Anti-Female Genital Mutilation Board; Communications Authority of Kenya Universal Service Fund; Sacco Societies Regulatory Authority, SASRA; Lake Victoria North Waterworks Development Agency; Gatanga Technical and Vocational College; Nachu Technical and Vocational College in Kikuyu; Kipkabas Technical and Vocational College; Rivertex East Africa Limited; Kibabii University; Kisiwa Technical Training Institute; Runyenjes Technical and Vocational College in Runyenjes; Jeremiah Nyaga Technical Institute; Tarbo Technical and Vocational College; Karumo Technical Training Institute; National Construction Authority; Kenya Literature Bureau; Kenya National Qualification Authority; Kenya Education Management Institute; Kenya Technical Training College; Kabete National Polytechnic; Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology Enterprise Limited; Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology Noodles Limited; Kenya Rural Roads Authority; and lastly, the Kenya Urban Roads Authority Road Maintenance Levy Fund. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Next.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Next. Is there a notice? The Honorable Jen Kagiri, OGW MP, MP Laikipia County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Reduction of cost of electricity in the country, in brackets, Departmental Committee on Energy. Honorable Speaker, I beg to...
Honorable Member, you start by saying, I beg to give notice of the following motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the guidance. I beg to give the notice of motion on reduction of cost of electricity in the country, Departmental Committee on Energy, in brackets. Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that aware that the cost of electricity has been at an all-time high, affecting the cost of living and doing business. Acknowledging that the Kenya Power and Lighting Company, a public limited company, in brackets Kenya Power, procures electricity from the Kenya Electricity Generating Company, another public limited company, in brackets KenGen, a government-owned company, and from independent power producers, in brackets IPPs, recognizing that Kenya Power has entered into power purchase agreements, in brackets PPAs, with both KenGen and the IPPs, and procures power from them at unregulated rates. Noting that there is need to regulate all IPPs in the country and publicize their locations, stakeholders, directors, management, and their addresses and agreements entered into with Kenya Power. Cognizant that recommendations from past task force reports relating to power purchase and rates have not been implemented, deeply concerned that Kenya Power has in the past procured a large quantity of power from the IPPs at a greater cost rather than from KenGen, leading to higher cost of power, cognizant of the fact that there is need to put in place policies, strategies, and regulatory measures for better planning to moderate the cost of electricity and enable access to energy by all, particularly in the manufacturing sector, to ease the cost of production and doing business. This House therefore resolves that the Departmental Committee on Energy undertakes an inquiry into the operations of Kenya Power in relation to agreements entered with IPPs, factors affecting the cost of electricity, including over-reliance on IPPs, against available renewable and other energy sources, and measures to reduce it, and submit a report to the House within 120 days. 2, in the meantime, the Ministry and Kenya Power should not enter into new contracts with IPPs until the House makes a resolution on the matter. Number 3, informed by the reports of previous task forces on the matter, the Ministry engages in negotiations with power producers with a view to reducing the cost of power. And number 4, the Ministry and Kenya Power developed suitable strategies for engagements with the IPPs in order to provide relief for electricity consumers and ensure the long-term viability and sustainability of the energy sector. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44.2a, I rise to give the following statement on behalf of the House Business Committee, which met on Tuesday, 14th February 2023, to prioritize the business for consideration during the week. Honorable Speaker, allow me to once again welcome members to the second session of the 13th Parliament, trusting that we have all enjoyed our long recess, had time to rest, re-energize and reconnect with our families and our dear constituents. And therefore, all members are well energized to restart this second session. Honorable Speaker, as members are aware, yesterday the House approved the calendar of the House for the regular sittings, setting the stage for the commencement of business for the second session. Notably, the first part of this session, Honorable Speaker, will be quite busy, with key business being the consideration of the budget policy statement and the medium-term debt strategy for the financial year 2023-2024, which I have just tabled before the House this afternoon. It is also noted that the committees of the House are already engaged in consideration of the supplementary estimates, and this will give way for the consideration of the supplementary appropriations bill, hopefully in the course of next week or early the following week. Honorable Speaker, next week members are expected to continue deliberations on the general debate on the proposal to amend the Constitution and the standing orders should the debate not be concluded by the rise of the House today. Members are encouraged to attend the sessions to ensure that their views are recorded on these very important constitutional and procedural matters that are before us. Honorable Speaker, the House will also continue debate on the report of the delegation of the OACPS on the 42nd session of the African, Caribbean, and Pacific European Union Joint Parliamentary Assembly, should it not be concluded today. Additionally, the Petition to Parliament Procedure Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 51 of 2022 by the Honorable Gladys Bosch-Sholei, MP, and the National Construction Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 59 of 2022 by the Honorable David Gikaria, MP, are set to undergo first reading. This will open up the bills for consideration by the relevant committees in accordance with the standing orders. Honorable Speaker, members will note that the House Business Committee is yet to start scheduling questions to Cabinet Secretaries. This is in view of the consideration of a proposed mechanism currently before the Procedures and House Rules Committee. Once this is concluded, the necessary processes will be instituted to allow members to ask questions accordingly. Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee will reconvene on Tuesday, 21st February 2022 to schedule business for the rest of the week. Honorable Speaker, I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House. Thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I now call the member for Navaholo, Emmanuel Wangwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to request for a statement regarding delay in enrollment of students in Kakamega County into Form 1 classes. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 44-2C, I rise to request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education regarding the delay of students from Kakamega County in joining their respective high schools. Honorable Speaker, it is regrettable that several students across the country are yet to join their respective secondary schools owing to lack of school fees. This includes students in Kakamega County, sponsored by the Jomo Kenyatta Foundation under the Elimu program. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I seek a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Education on the following. 1. Is the Ministry of Education aware that 155 students from Kakamega County, sponsored by Jomo Kenyatta Foundation under Elimu program, are yet to join their respective secondary schools for Form 1 classes? 2. Could the Chairperson have the Ministry explain the fate of these very needy students if they fail to join secondary schools? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Next order.
Order number 8, the Public Service Values and Principles Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 46 of 2022, first reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Public Service Values and Principles Act and to provide for connected purposes. Order number 9, the Geriatric Bill, National Assembly Bill number 50 of 2022. First reading. A bill for an act of Parliament to give effect to Article 57 of the Constitution to establish the National Council for the Elderly, to provide for the care of elderly persons, to provide for the empowerment and protection of the elderly and the maintenance of their well-being, safety and security, and for connected purposes. Order number 10, motion general debate on the proposal to Parliament to consider amending the Constitution and the standing orders, resumption of debate.
The Honorable John Mutunga, member for Tigania West.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this motion. Honorable Speaker, the message from His Excellency the President read. And I would like to thank His Excellency for thinking through this and making an effort to ensure that at least he reaches out to the House to make a determination. Honorable Speaker, I also would like to thank you for committing this business to the committees. We are waiting for the report from the committee on the JLAC, the Joint Under Committee to entrench the funds, and also the Procedures and House Rules Committee to amend the standing orders and strengthen the oversight so that they may be able to give us the guidance that we shall use in order to deal with these issues. Honorable Speaker, the context of the issues runs through the 4 or so issues that the President did give to us. But he was very precise in his statement, Honorable Speaker. He said that he requested the speakers to consider all policy measures to fully actualize the full promise of our Constitution. And the President wants the Constitution adhered to. The President wants the full, actualization of the Constitution. And that is why these matters were brought to the House, Honorable Speaker. The idea is not just to change the Constitution. The idea is to ensure that the Constitution is fully implemented. Honorable Speaker, if I may be specific to some of these issues, first of all, it has not been easy for us as a country to realize the gender equity issue. All efforts have been put up. Article 97 and 98 speak to this, and Honorable Speaker, it has not been possible to get the numbers as it were. The non-compliance to the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, implies some breach of the Constitution. In this particular case, the President is requesting us to come up with a formula, or requesting us to consider a formula that will ensure that there is equitable representation in terms of gender in all electable and also appointment positions. There is need for us to look into this so that we may ease the burden of having poor representation. Honorable Speaker, looking at the trend of events, we have had ladies or women being empowered in this country, some of them being nominated to positions so that we can balance out the equation. And Honorable Speaker, as it is going on, and as we can see, what happens is that those who are nominated, the next time they come in elected. And those who have been given position to popularize themselves have been able to do so to an extent that they are being elected. So, Honorable Speaker, we see a situation where at the end of the day, this equation will naturally balance out, and not only balancing out, there is a likelihood that the ladies might be more than the men. So gender is not about women, gender is about the balancing of in terms of the numbers in view of the two, genders. Honorable Speaker, we need to note that the actual nominations that happen in Senate, the actual nominations that happen in Parliament have not been given us the numbers as it were. So the formula is necessary, and therefore I launched this particular provision or request by His Excellency the President to handle this particular problem. Honorable Speaker, if I may speak very briefly to the issues of CDF, issues of the Senate Oversight Fund and GAF. Honorable Speaker, I would like Kenyans to understand that CDF does not belong to the members of Parliament. There is this misconception that CDF belongs to members of Parliament. It doesn't belong to the members of the National Assembly. It is a fund that the National Assembly, especially the NGCDF, which is operating under the the 2015 legislation, basically is oversighted by the Member of Parliament. It is a fund that is very specific to the developments described in terms of proportions of use and has really targeted real development across the constituencies. It is a fund that is apparent in terms of when you go to any county, you see what CDF has done, and that money is not a lot. CDF is about the most significant in most of the constituencies. The design of CDF befits the realization of input, outputs, and outcomes that are so apparent in those areas. GAF, Honorable Speaker, has also got its targets to do some good work. And therefore, my request, Honorable Speaker, is to consider GAF a little bit more seriously, look into it, and look at the legislation and regulations that guide GAF so that GAF is better guided than it is right now. But it is an important fund, as it were. Honorable Speaker, I may speak to a nomination. I do not know whether everybody looks at it that way. But Honorable Speaker, I would wish to think about the World Development Fund. We have avoided this particular issue. It has become a serious and thorny issue in most counties. As we speak right now, Meru County is going through turmoils and a lot of problems because of the World Development Fund. We see a situation that in future, the MCAs will also come up and ask whether they could be considered with a development fund that is specific and targeted to the awards. So it's something that probably could be looked into at this particular point in time. The Senate Oversight Fund, Honourable Speaker, it's not really a fund, if I may look at it. Senate Oversight is like a facilitation. And we are staring at a situation where members of the National Assembly, members of the County Assembly and others who are elected may also be looking at an oversight fund or something that will help them, some money that will help them to oversight their programs. This is something that this House should practically look into and debate upon so that we are able to set up a fund that is going to help the senators to do some work in their areas and not necessarily to oversight, because the oversight role is a shared function within Senate, between Senate and the members of the County Assembly. Honourable Speaker, parliamentary oversight is important, and that is the final issue that I want to speak to. Improving parliamentary oversight of the executive is key. We need to look to bring the executive here. Many of us, Honourable Speaker, have argued that this will lead to confusion, this will lead to reduction of the business of the committees, it will demystify the relevance and the existence of the committees. And I share a totally different opinion. Honourable Speaker, the work that the committee does is detailed. There is no time that you shall have members of the cabinet secretaries here, and they can attend to all issues, especially if I may speak to agriculture. The CS Agriculture may not answer all the questions within agriculture within one sitting. In any case, and I see it this way, we will have asked those questions in this House before the members of the cabinet secretaries can be pondered upon. So they will be coming to respond to specific issues. They will not be coming to respond to general issues or anything that probably may have in mind. The other issue, Honourable Speaker, it will create an opportunity for greater spread of the knowledge and information. Because when cabinet secretaries come to respond to issues at the committee level, only a few of the members of this House are able to gain that particular response. The feedback is limited to only a few, and those probably may be invited as friends of the committee. Those who may not know about this particular issue may not know what was discussed, and that is why we are saying, if they come here and anybody is interested in a specific issue, there is sufficient room for them to listen to the issue and sufficient room for that matter to interrogate the issue. In conclusion, Honourable Speaker, I would like to say that this particular issue is actually articulated, is intoned in the Standing Order 253, subsection 3. Basically, even if they are strangers, all we need is to look at that particular provision and see how we can make it possible for them to come to this House. Honourable Speaker, none of the matters demanded above, none of the matters that have been proposed by the President demand a referendum. And I speak this into this House with the list of those matters that require a referendum. There is nothing that talks about the supremacy of the Constitution. Nothing touches on the territory of Kenya. Nothing touches on the sovereignty of the people and the natural values. None of those issues will touch on the Bill of Rights, the term of the President. None of them will touch on frustrating the functions of the Parliament. I'll speak to this particular issue. And none of them touches on the objectives and principles and the structure of devolved government. Let me very briefly speak to the issue of the functions of the Parliament, which could be the issue that is making some of our members consider it an issue requiring referendum. Honourable Speaker, if I may speak to the functions of the Parliament, what among those four issues will hinder deliberating and resolving the issues that affect our people? Which of those will disable us from enacting good laws? Which of them will make it impossible for us to determine the allocation of resources at different levels and to different functions? Which of them will impede the appropriation of funds, basically for expenditure at the various ministries, departments, and agencies? Which of them will impair oversight of the national government, oversight of the government officials. Which of them will basically make it impossible for us to approve for war or extension of emergency? None of the above. Honourable Speaker, none requires a referendum. I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable. There's Honourable Kulo Hassan. Is he in the house? He had some 6 minutes to go. We overlooked. He's not here. Eric Muchangi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this motion. And I would like to say mine is a brief submission on what are my thoughts on the issue of CDF. And Mr. Speaker, there has been a misconception out there that the Constituencies Development Fund is a fund that is under the control of the members of Parliament, or whether it benefits members of Parliament. And I would like to say that the CDF is a fund that has been very beneficial to the people in this country. It is a fund that is present in every corner of the constituencies in the country. And when it comes to the issues to do with the education of our kids and students, CDF has come in handy. And so those who think that CDF is a fund that should be abolished, actually CDF should be a fund that should be increased so that it can serve the many needs of our students in the larger republic. Mr. Speaker, I try to imagine how many students would be out of school if there was no CDF. And considering the cost of living nowadays, many parents are unable to take their children to school, and they are only relying on CDF, some actually doing so entirely. So this is a fund that we need to protect, even as we introduce other form of funds, Senate Oversight Fund. CDF should be a fund that we should consider increasing so that it can benefit more and more of our students and schools. Mr. Speaker, the idea of amending the standing order so that we can provide for the cabinet secretaries to come and respond to questions in Parliament is a very welcome idea, because I have personally asked questions to the cabinet secretaries and I have seen them come to the committees, but sometimes the kind of answers they come and give at the committees are not satisfactory answers. And if they will have to come to this house, it means they will come with well-prepared answers, and members will also get an opportunity to give or rather ask supplementary questions. So there is no cabinet secretary whatsoever who will come here in this chamber not prepared or not sure of what is going to say. A lot of projects, Mr. Speaker, are not going on in our constituencies, and they are not going on because of simple issues that would have been sorted if the cabinet secretaries were readily available to attend to the issues and matters raised by the honorable members. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to support this motion so that we can have more participation by members in asking the CSS questions when they appear before this House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Said, the Honorable Didmas Barasa, if he's in the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity also to support the gesture by the head of state that we need to amend our constitution on a number of matters. Notably and most important is the CDF, because as you are aware, Honorable Speaker, we have had perennial litigants who are basically busybodies who have been hovering from courtroom to the other, attempting to block this very important development fund. Mr. Speaker, if you move across this country, if you go to every corner of this country, you can fail to spot a pregnant woman, but you will not fail to spot a project funded by national government CDF funds. This is a fact, Honorable Speaker. And I think the misinformation going out there that this fund is unconstitutional and is controlled by politicians is not true. This fund is controlled by a committee that is nominated by a panel chaired by the DCC Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is a fund that is controlled by Treasury. That's why one of the signatories of this fund is a district accountant who is an employee of Treasury. And I think the head of state means well for this country. That's why it's very necessary that this fund be embedded in our constitution so that the perennial litigants can find something else meaningful to them to do, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, when it comes to the Senate Oversight Fund, it is a very important fund that the senators must be able to oversight the billions of shillings that are devolved across various governments in this country, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is very important. And the only area that I do not agree, Honorable Speaker, is, and I've been very forthright on this, even from the previous Parliament, with me, I don't believe in forcing people to elect the numbers of a particular gender when it comes to elective positions, Honorable Speaker. I have always been of the view that the issue of gender role be excluded from elective positions, because you can't force the people of Kimilili constituency either to elect a man or to elect a woman. They will elect a person who will appear to have a superior plan on their behalf. And even myself, Honorable Speaker, I have always looked at female members of parliament as members of parliament who are competent enough to be able to articulate issues that affect children of this country, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I've always used an example of the county of Kirinyaga, where you see in every elections, you see female politicians have been trouncing men in trousers, not once, not twice, and I'm always a believer that what a man does, a woman can do even 5 times better. And we should begin to look at elected leaders of this country, not in terms of gender, but in terms of their upstairs, their mental capabilities to take this country forward, Honorable Speaker. I am a believer, and I have evidence that we have women who's thinking are much more better than men, and we have men who's thinking are much better than female. And the gender is just, it was just a way that God used to ensure that we have progression in this country. But in terms of thinking, in terms of the application of the wisdom, we are equal in the eyes of men, in the eyes of God. And I think when that time comes, I think I will be able to give in my on what I think is good for this country, but I still believe that the issues of gender parity should exclude elected leaders, because you can't, it will be difficult to balance, to force the people of a particular area that you have to elect one man and one female. We should leave that thing wide open for them to decide and bring men and women into this house who better understands their problems, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this House is a debating chamber where different views are debated, and we also have a responsibility to change any laws anytime, following the stipulated procedures in our Constitution. And I think in that line, Honorable Speaker, I think we should expedite the various committees that are processing these bills. They need to expedite these bills so that they go out through public participation, so that Kenyans can give their views, so that we stop endangering this very important fund, NGCDF, from the hands of these perennial litigants, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, without much ado, I say this is a very good gesture. This is a very good proposal by the head of state, and he has done his thinking. We need to pick it up and run with it and ensure that in less than a year, even before the end of this year, we should have these laws embedded in our constitution, Honorable Speaker. We should even think of even increasing some of the the devolved functions that the county governments have been grappling with. We need even to get some of them, bring them back to the national government and expand this fund so that it can be able to take care of those functions that the counties are struggling with, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as I finish, it is important for this House to know and for Kenyans to know that this NGCDF, the way it's been operationalized, it is not a blank check, because it begins by first the committee sending a proposal to the national government CDF board. The board will look at it, will approve it, and they will be able to monitor it. The only way to avoid pending bills is to follow the route on how NGCDF is managed. I will want to see a situation where the devolved functions, county governments, they need to have a framework similar to CDF, where proposals are approved here by somebody here in Nairobi, so that when they go back to the counties, they allocate enough money so that we reduce these issues of pending bills, these issues of disregarding projects that were initiated by your predecessor. This can only be possible, Honorable Speaker, by following the national government, the CDF way. National government, CDF fund, it is a fund that should be emulated and not to be scrapped. That is why we feel very strongly that it should be embedded inside, and I say inside the bedroom of